Hey folks, Rob Daniels here from Visions in Sound on 98.5 CKWR, visionsinsound.ca, many other places around. This is a bonus. I looked at my schedule and went, you know what? It's Canada Day, and I wanted to do something specifically Canadian. And the album I'm going to be talking about is a very interesting project that came out in the 2000s, and that's Canada, A People's History. It's probably one of the most interesting projects, and finally we're getting a history from a Canadian perspective, years of being able to not having it come through the lens of an American lens or a British lens, but no, this was Canada. This was Canadian stories. This was really cool. And for me, one of the things that jumped out at me, it was a multimedia event. You know, it was on TV, it was on the internet, the very early internet. There were books, there was a whole bunch of stuff. But the one thing that jumped out at me was the fact that they were selling a soundtrack of the show's music. That, to me, was huge. Now, you've got Claude Desjardins and Eric Robertson's music. Two composers I'd never heard of, and I actually tried to get in contact with them a number of years ago. That didn't happen. But I was able to find a copy of the score. And of all places, well, I mention it often, but The Beat Goes On, which was a local used shop that I'd find my stuff all the time. Now, later on, I actually found a copy at a dollar store in the town where I live, and also another place. Oh yeah, a thrift shop as well. They were all over. But there's also a copy in the volume 1 of the DVD set. So I've got a backup, regardless of any case. So for me, having music that was specifically done for a Canadian project was really cool. The opening theme, and to this day, the opening theme to the show always gets me. It's one of those, it goes ba-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da-da. It's a theme that evokes the "O Canada," but at the same time goes off in its own direction. And I think that's cool. It's one of those, it's actually something that I used. A little story on this. I did with my friend Larry McIntyre, we did a little series called This Canada of Ours. And I created a opening theme of sorts. Not a composer, but I used some elements from a library music set. So I did that. I based it very much on the Canada, A People's History theme. Now the rest of the music is very, very well done. It starts at the beginning. The problem here, though, is that it only goes so far. It only covers usually the first volume. This here, it's amazing. It's, in my opinion, a huge encapsulation of Canadian music, at least in those early days. I mean, they really capture the native element in When the World Began, Adventures in Mystics, Claiming the Wilderness. Beautiful music on this. The problem is that nobody's talking about it. And this is the thing. I would love to be able to present to you the Canada, A People's History music for the entire series. Apparently there's like 35 hours of it done. In any case, huge amounts of music. Watch the series if you can find it. It is on YouTube, I believe. If you can find it on DVD, that's even better because there are extra features. But it's Eric Robertson's music. And he was the primary composer, but Claude Desjardins, apparently percussion, did a lot of extra work on that as well. This is, in my opinion, as Canadian as it gets. I mean, you have Bob and Doug, you have all of these other composers, but Canada, A People's History, really, for me, encapsulates what Canadian music, at least Canadian film music, Canadian documentary music, sounds like. It is the sound of Canada, a place where I was born and I'm proud to live there. Now, I generally stay away from political discussions, but I'm going to say one thing. Canada, A People's History is exactly what it sounds like. It's people's history. So it talks about it talks about the John A. Macdonald, our first Prime Minister here in Canada. Recently, and within the last couple of years, a high school was renamed something else from John A. Macdonald High School, I believe it was. And I thought to myself, why? Why did it need to be changed? Because the whitewashing, the politically correctness of the world was, for some reason, I can't remember exactly the reason why John A. Macdonald, the fact it was changed, something he'd done. For me, it was a teaching moment, because it's a school. It was a teaching moment. The kind of thing where you could sit back and you would go, our school is named John A. Macdonald High School. He was not a nice man. He did something in his past. We've all done something in our past that we regret. But he was the father of Confederation, the first Prime Minister of Canada. That means something. So you call the high school John A. Macdonald High School or whatever it was, and you say, the reason why this is named John A. Macdonald High School is the first Prime Minister of Canada. This is what he did that was not right. This is why history does not need to be changed. It's one of the very few things that I will stand by to my dying day. History, warts and all, does not need to be changed. And once we start changing it, we lose ourselves in the process. I honestly believe that. Rant over. Back to Canada, A People's History and the music. If you haven't heard this soundtrack, go out and buy it. Go out and find it. Look for it. You will not be disappointed. The theme alone is worth the price of admission. So with that in mind, my show is Visions in Sound. It's on Saturday morning, 12 to 2 a.m. on 98.5 CKWR. You can also find me on my website, visionsinsound.ca. There's a lot of interviews and such on there as well. You can also be found on the Twitter at Visions Sound. But you can also go on GoodPods, a downloadable app for your phone or other type device. And I'm also on the various podcatchers out there, including Apple Music. Thank you for listening. Thank you for entertaining my rant. And go out. Listen to unusual soundtracks. Don't just stick to the main ones. Expand your knowledge, expand your mind. Like, share, and subscribe. Because the more subscribers I get, the more views, the more eyes on this, the more people are going to understand that the hobby that I love is not just a hobby for me, it's a lifestyle. And I love this lifestyle. Thank you for listening. Happy Canada Day. We'll see you next week.